wrote a fiction about a fiction, and it was a pretty far-fetched story because it starts with a town that had locked themselves up for about 3 months, and then everyone came out and they felt they had to wear masks, and they were told this would go on forever unless they injected themselves with poison. So as you can see, I got a good imagination. This would never happen in reality. Who here is familiar with the Milgram experiment? Okay, a lot of people don't know everything about the Milgram experiment. We usually hear the bad part and not the good part. For those who don't know what the Milgram experiment is, I'm going to sum it up very quickly. They had this experiment in some fancy university where they took volunteers and they told them that they had to shock people if they got a question wrong. And they would bring them into the lab and they'd have the guy hooked up to an electroshock machine, and every time he got the question wrong, they told the volunteer, you got to shock him. The guy would scream out in pain, they'd shock him again and again, and they would start to protest, and they'd say to the lab, the scientists, I don't think we should be shocking this guy. He's crying, he's in pain, he says he has heart problems, we might kill him. And the authority figure says, no, you got to shock him. And of course, this is basically what we put up with for, well, longer than COVID, like the host said. But it became apparent during COVID. Not only were we willing to shock other people, we were willing to shock ourselves. Now, everyone kind of knows this about the Milgram experiment. What people don't know is they did another experiment afterwards where they had the scientists come in, they had the volunteer come in, and they had the guys being shocked. And then they would have another person come in before the volunteer, and he would refuse to shock the person. So when the volunteer saw someone refusing to hurt the person, the chances of them shocking the person went down like 80%. So they proved that if you just have an authority figure say, you got to do something bad, most people will do it. But if you have an authority figure tell someone to do something bad and they refuse, the next person in line is very unlikely to do it. So that's what I tried to do with the story. I tried to create a story. I didn't really focus on trying to expose the hoax. It does that, and I think it does it quite well, but the main focus of the story is providing an example of people who are refusing to go along. It starts with the baker in a small town. She says, I'm not going to wear a mask. She actually puts a sign up in front of her bakery saying, no face, no service. And the story goes from there where when she refuses, other people start refusing. And of course, what happens is the police come in. And things get ridiculous because that's what we have to realize. It's not a little thing, even if the masks were good, even if the vaccines were good, which I don't think by any stretch of the imagination they were, but even if they were, forcing people to do something, it's fundamentally, that's what we're fighting here. It's not about the vaccines, it's not about the lockdowns, it's not about transgenderism. It's about not forcing people to do things. So I think one thing we got to realize, and this is my concluding point, is that if we're going to change laws and we're going to change politics, all that's led by culture. It's not something so much led by facts, because they're not telling facts. They've won, well, they didn't win, but they almost won just by telling a story that they made up and they didn't have any facts behind it. What we need to be doing, I feel more, is through art, principally music, visual art, and literature, changing the culture that way. So I spent 1,000 hours working on this. I started when the first lockdown happened, and I thought it was going to be a short story. And right now, it's getting 4.9 stars on Amazon. Amazon doesn't like that. They tried banning it on the advertising platform, but they let me come back, and they said they got confused, and they thought it was against the Ukraine war or something. I don't understand their excuses. So if you're interested, I'd encourage you to, if you want, just pick up the book and have a look at the prologue. It's 3 pages. Read the prologue and see if you get hooked. Another thing you can do with this is a purple pill. You've heard about the red pill, you heard about the blue pill. Most people can't handle the red pill, so they take the blue pill. This is kind of a purple pill because it's a story. So I would recommend it because that's how the left has been winning over us for decades. Through movies, Netflix, novels, they just change the culture with their own stories. So if we can fight back with our own stories, I think we have a very good chance, because we got the facts, we got truth, we got protests like this, but the one thing we don't have is stories. So thank you very much. I got a table over there. If you're interested in having a look at the book, come on over. Thank you very much.